let's have a look at what we need in our conclusion for our excellence. So there are 3 things that we can add. So we want to be able to compare our results with our prediction and try to explain and connect this together. We want to reflect on our simulation and we want to think about what could we improve. And then we also want to talk about that idea of sampling variability, that if we did another investigation, what would we find? So let's take a look at the prediction comparison. So when I did my drawing pin toss, I predicted that the pin would land up 80% of the time. All right, and that was just, in this particular case, was a pure guess. I honestly didn't know what the probability was going to be, and so I figured that the bottom of the pin is heavier, so I figured that because this was heavier, it's going to more likely to land with the pin sticking upwards. Okay, and so I found that it was 80%. I predicted it was 80%. Now, in my actual investigation, I found that the pin-up probability was actually 68%. So my prediction was lower than my result, but it was higher than going the other way, which is what I thought. So then I just go on and give a little bit of explanation about why that might be. So I've talked about the fact that it's quite heavy and therefore it's more likely to drop onto the bottom, landing with the pin pointing up. Also, we could look at that idea of surface area, and so that whole surface area and momentum and how that can affect it. All right, so I'm giving some reasoning, I'm comparing it and explaining why this might be. In terms of a reflection, one of the things that I wanted to try and do was I wanted to toss the pin in the same way. But if I redid this experiment again, could I improve that? So I've said, for example, I could toss the coin by placing my hand on a structure so that I always tossed it from the same height above the desk. So I might have, for example, I might make myself a stack of books, okay? And so then I can place my hand on that stack of books. There's my little hand. And then I can just literally drop the pin from there and then see how it lands. All right, so that would be one thing I could do. Another thing would be is holding the pin in the same way. So for example, I could have the head facing upwards between the pin with the head facing upwards between my finger and my thumb. So I can talk about the method that I've used and try to think of ways I can control it further. So that would be an example of a reflection of what could I do to improve it. Sampling variability, that's when we look for that long-range frequency chart and we draw a graph of that. And what we can notice is, as I said before, as time goes by, if I draw a line at the top and a line at the bottom, we notice that the data is getting closer and closer together. So that means that as we have more information, we are more precise in our estimate. So as our sample size or our number of trials is increasing, that means the variation in our estimate is reducing or getting smaller. Okay.